Hey, it's your girl Nancy Red, and this is season 3 of Mompreneurs, where every week we celebrate beautiful Black entrepreneurs who are simultaneously amazing business moguls and awesome moms, listening to their life stories and inspiring advice. Now, Rachel Nix is amazing. She's a fitness queen, she's an acting queen, and she's also the founder of Birth Queen. It's a nonprofit she started after suffering from anxiety about the safety of her own Black sons. And also, she really wanted to do something to help combat the Black maternal health crisis. She also has her own podcast. She got fitness classes on demand, also recorded. She also does trainings one-on-one. I mean, there's just so much that she does that we are here to talk about. And we are so glad that you're here with us today, Rachel. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, before we get into all the business stuff, let's talk about your mompreneurship and who makes you a mompreneur and not just an entrepreneur. Tell us about your kids.
Okay, so I have 2 boys that are now 6 and 3, which I'm like, how did I get to 6? It's kind of crazy. And he's really like 46. He's an old soul for sure. Trying to justify why he needed this morning Messi jersey, Ronaldo. And I'm like, sir, they are $110 and you are 6. And he's like, well, it's fine, mom, because you make $2,000 a day. And I'm like, how do you come back? I was like, well, he's smart. So he's a good negotiator. So that's Samuel. He's 6. And then Baldwin is my baby, who's 3.
Oh, well, I might usually ask, is that, are your boys influenced by your mompreneurship? But clearly from his highfalutin tastes, your sons are very aware that mom is a mompreneur.
Yes, they know that mommy works. I think a good segue into like how I even started to explain that to them is one week I was literally shooting Mirror, and I had booked 2 TV shows in 1 week, and Samuel was 2. And I remember I had to like run to the next thing, and he was crying. He was with his nanny, and I said, "Listen," I was like, "You like toys, right?" And he's like, "Yes." And I was like, "Okay, so mommy has to go to work so you can have toys." And so, I had to break it down for a 2-year-old. But what I can say that happened on accident is that my boys respect my time and my work. And at the end of the day, they know mommy's got it. Like, and in order to get it, she got to go to work.
I think that's so important. And a lot of times we have these conversations, and there's so much guilt about the time we take away from our kids or how they see this or why isn't mommy always there. But it seems you have a good viewpoint on that. You have created boundaries that really work for you and your sons.
I appreciate you bringing that up. I am a strong believer of sharing my side of the guilt story. I do not have mommy guilt. And I had to have a somewhat uncomfortable conversation with a girlfriend who I felt safe enough to have it with, because she's like, everybody has mom guilt. And I was like, I don't. Like, I don't feel guilty about being all of me, because when I activate all of my pieces, I am a better person and therefore a better mother. So my boys benefit when I'm doing all of me. And I don't feel guilty, nor do many men. Like, I've had these conversations and some men say, sure. But I think the biggest thing is men are not guilted for being at work. I've been on a movie set before where the superstar male was a dad and the superstar director was a dad. And he looked at me over drinks and said, oh my God, you have kids? Well, where are they? I'm like, well, where are yours? Like, they're not on set. Like, so I think I tell moms, be careful of saying you have mom guilt versus are people making you feel guilty about working? Because they might not, it might be different than you just feeling bad versus people making you feel that way.
I love that. Okay, let's get down to the business. Which came first, entrepreneurship or motherhood?
So I had decided to be an actor. So there's that. So I think there's always, unless you just hit it big day one, which doesn't really happen. Some people, there's always kind of an entrepreneurship in you because you got to figure it out in between time. And I was not the girl you wanted waiting tables, your table or any tables. I'm domestic, but not in that way. And so I had to figure it out. And so this whole career kind of in fitness was born, which you wouldn't necessarily say is an entrepreneurial path. You know, you're running and getting it as like a trainer. So there is nature of building your business. But truly during 2020, when I was pregnant with Baldwin, like the advocate was really kind of born in me. And that's when I got my vision for my nonprofit to combat the Black maternal health crisis. And from then on, I had a comfortable 9 to 5, and then God was like, time to keep going on your solo path. And I was like, oh my God, okay. So yes, I've been keeping myself out of a straitjacket, charting my own path for quite some time.
Okay, so talk to us. What I like to call this the hustle hierarchy, right? Because no
Uh-huh.
one has just one aspect to their business. You're living proof of this. You have like teen things, man. If anyone's old enough to have watched In Living Color with the Hey Man skit, where like I got teen jobs. Okay, I'm a terrible accent person. I'm not an actress like you, but okay, part of your business. What is the hierarchy? Like, what's the first? What's the biggest part of your business income, and then what are the other little trickle downs that you
Yes.
have going on?
So I had for a long time a very cushy, like fitness was like my main thing. And then acting would come in and out of that. I did a ton of plays when Samuel was little. Now it's just too hard to be away 8 shows a week for now. Um, but my advocacy, my consultancy is like a thing that's being born in my maternal health. So I didn't realize and this is something to give to any woman that's like, well, I want to help people because I'm a Pisces and an artist and all I do. My dad's like, why do you like people to help people so much? I'm like, I don't know. I can't help it. But you can also do well and good, right? And so I'm learning with all of my toolkits in the Black maternal health space and maternal health space in general, because I'm also a doula lactation counselor. Like I can activate all those pieces to help people monetize and to save lives. And so, you know, as a doula and a trainer and an advocate, but also just a consultant for different people trying to um, achieve birth equity, it's I know I didn't answer your question, but it's a bit of kind of it's evening out, but I would say the maternal health and consultancy is kind of coming to the top, then fitness, doula, acting.
I love that. That's no, and also it's not that one necessarily always stays at top and one
Yeah.
goes. It's an ebb and flow, especially with acting. Good Lord.
Hmm. But I do have 2 movies coming out this year, and I was supposed to go
I
to
know.
the African Film Festival, but it's real rainy and crazy, so that's not gonna happen. But that's fine.
But that's exciting that I know you have 2 movies, which is a big thing. It's kind of like when one day, for example, you mentioned Mirror, which you were like an inaugural trainer for this very fancy in-house, in-home mirror training
Yep.
thing. And when that ends, other doors open up, like your
Yep.
acting career. You've got
Yep.
2 movies coming out, which for anyone who doesn't understand, in the year of crazy strikes and shenanigans, this is a miracle.
Yeah. And it takes time, you know, it's this like you have to learn. And this is what I'm learning from other entrepreneurs is that everyone is afraid about money continually coming in, and that we all have to remind ourselves that that 9 to 5, that W-2 is also an illusion of safety, you know, because it can end too. But I think the cool thing about activating and advocating for yourself as a mompreneur, and I have one more thought to that I won't forget the mompreneur piece, but is that there's so much you don't know is possible. So I think that's what should keep you motivated and excited. Although there are days you're like, is the door ever going to open? But it to me is God's way of continuing to stretch you to reach your full potential. And after having kids, to I think succinctly like answer your question, yes, my businesswoman was born when I became a mother. So because it just had to make sense. I'm not leaving my house if it's costing me money. Like, and I remember my agents, I was like, ask for a nanny, ask for this. And they were like, well, you're not such and such. I was like, well, I can't go to work if it's costing me money. So that doesn't make sense. So just ask them. I'm not being a diva. It's simple math. And I've learned too, I was a breastfeeding mom on sets during plays, TV shows, and I had some of my famous girlfriends calling me like, "Well, how'd you do it?" I said, "Girl, what you talking about? You famous?" She's like, "Well, I said, you just breastfeed. You don't ask. You tell people what you need to do to feed your baby." And that's what we're doing. And little did I know, I was changing culture on sets at theaters and encouraging other Black women um, to continue to breastfeed their babies. And not just Black women, but I think for certain Black women have more pressure to, conform. And I'm really proud to say I know two very successful actresses and beyond that I personally encouraged to have a baby and to breastfeed and not truncate their breastfeeding journey because they were on set. So it's a good feeling.
I love that. And I love the mantra, don't ask, tell. Because
Yeah,
that's hard, but that's business.
men don't ask. They just, they just let you know what they need. It's just and it's not an attitude. Do you know what I mean? It's not like that's not what I mean. It's just like, oh, so hi. Just like if you had a food allergy, you would just tell people you have a food allergy. So to me, whatever your needs are as a mother, and sometimes that might mean your baby has to come to work because you can't keep up with pumping or whatever that needs to be. And I just, if every mother could walk around feeling empowered to just move the way she needs to move in her body and in her mothering and work journey, that just would make me very happy.
I love this. And so when you think about the don't ask, tell mantra, who are some of the people in your life that you've brought in to help you build your businesses to get to the point that you are?
Number one, I think it starts with having help. I don't think achieving women talk enough about hired help. It costs. And I live in New York and my family's in Oakland, California. So I have to pay for help. I have a great network of mom friends, but they all are also juggling a million things. So shout out to Mimi. None of this would run without Mimi. Period. The end. And so absolutely my nanny, who is essentially just a bonus grandma in our home. And then a strong network of friends, those people that understand your day to day. And then I'm a big person where anywhere I'm weak, I go find somebody who's stronger. So I've been blessed to then navigate different circles, environments of different people. So those are the people that I lean on when I don't know something. I am not the super organized spreadsheet girl. I can open an Excel spreadsheet. I don't like it. I don't like it. It's not my thing. So surrounding yourself with people who are that way. I joke that I attract OCD wives. Pretty much all of my friends are OCD. And I was super organized and want to organize my kitchen. My girlfriend was just here to organize my pantry. I was like, amazing. So I encourage women to extend grace to themselves, number one, to ask for help and to pull in and lean on each other. You know what I mean? Like I might end up being able to have a job at a hospital because my girlfriend's writing the grant. And I'm like, can I help? Do I owe you? She's like, no, this is what I do. I write grants in my sleep. And then when we get it, you can go do the work. And I'm like, great. And so I really encourage just collaboration and leaning in and on and ask for what you need. I entered a space in a journey where I was like, yo, these checks ain't popping the way they used to. I need help. And as soon as I asked for help, people were like, well, I didn't know you needed help. Well, what do you need?
Exactly. I think that's brilliant.
Yeah, because the perception for a mompreneur is that we have it all together. And it's not like you need to log on Instagram and have a meltdown. I'm not suggesting that. But you reach out to the people that can support you on your journey and give them a clear ask of what you need and what they can do. And I promise you they'll activate. And if they can, and if they can't, that person then told me, if I can't get it done, I'm gonna reach out to my network to get it done for you. And yeah.
Right, it's like networking across, right?
Yes.
And it's both ways. Like you're helping each other. Like that's I think what people don't realize. is that person who calls you up asking for advice. It's okay for you to call them and ask for advice too. Like we don't have to just be the strong person. We can be the person who needs help too.
But when you're the strong person and life puts you in a chapter where you're in need, it's just a very new space, you know? Like a close friend of mine lost her job. She's been a working beast since she was 18, you know, in her space and field. And she's just like, "Wait, what? I got to ask? I don't understand." And it's like a new skill you have to learn. But to me, it's a blessing because it is a growth spurt of like, whoa, whoa, whoa. I don't always just have to load. And when you speak about mompreneurs, you know, doing all the things is dope. I wear multiple crowns, but what I tell people is you can't wear them all at the same time. They'll either fall and break or you will. So you need to don each beautiful crown one at a time, then take her off and put the next one on. Because that is the space in which you can truly flourish. When you're like, oh, I'm wearing this crown, I'm clear about this piece of me. Like when I come home and my kids have to help me, like put the phone down, right? So I can activate as mom and like do that really well. And then if I'm going to teach fitness, I'm gonna activate as that and kill it. And then I'm a doula. So if you give yourself permission to, you know, shift lanes, sometimes that looks like a Pollock, and that's okay too. You know what I mean? But allow yourself for a Monet moment. You know what I'm saying?
Huh.
Because it's helpful for your nervous system.
So for those of you, Google Pollock and Monet. Pollock just basically splashes a bunch of stuff on the canvas, and Monet is just it's very obvious what's going on. Abstract versus like some semblance of I know what I'm looking at.
Yeah.
Okay, so go
To
ahead.
that point is messy, right? Like with your example of the skit, right? My dad was like, "Are you Jamaican?" I was like, "Daddy," but now it makes sense. When I was collecting all my tools, filling all my toolboxes, it was confusing. He's like, "So you're an actress, now you're a doula, now you're a trainer, now you're a lactation counselor, now you like, what are you doing? Now you have a nonprofit, like, and two kids, like, I'm so confused." And now he's like, "I'm so glad you did all of that because now you have this." But that process to get there is not pretty clear or super defined.
I love that.
Yeah.
What's a big milestone in your business that you can recall being really excited about and proud of?
I mean, having the courage to found a nonprofit with a 3-year old and a 6-month old, um, that was one. Honestly, though, God didn't let me choose otherwise, because like everything I needed, like the amount of filing for the, you know, nonprofit, the 501c3 came in a gig. And then I said I needed to meet a Black midwife, and she emailed me the next day. There was like a lot of things that were like, ooh, that's a little eerie. um I am very proud to say I'm a homeowner. My neighbors are confused. They just think I'm a kept woman. And I'm like, no, I work. um, and, you know, I think it was a little help of universe, but pushing to the next thing. Like I knew when I was at Mirror, it was, I don't mean to say this in a trite way, but it was getting too easy. And it was time for me to grow. Like, and life is allowing that process to happen, but I do feel like I'm on that next side. So I'm super grateful for every friend, associate, family member who has just kind of helped push me along in this really big growth spurt. But I think when I get there, and I don't think I choose to ever arrive anywhere, but I know my goal is truly to end the Black maternal health crisis and to make sure that every woman and mother feels empowered, on her motherhood journey, no matter what color or creed or economic status she's in. I'm very passionate about that. Um, and it comes with when we go to finish that statement as a mom, it has to do with your mothering. And I'm choosing to raise 2 men who respect, honor, and love women. And we can't just teach our girls, we must teach our boys, um, to respect women and mothers. So
And the respect, it's wonderful when it's earned in such tangible ways that tremendously impact your family. Like it must have been very emotional. Like when because if for anyone who doesn't know, it's hard to buy a home. Yeah, it's hard to buy a home in the Tri-City area. And it's especially hard to buy a home as an entrepreneur, right? And so what was it like? What did it feel like when you were able to do this? When you were able to purchase this off of your entrepreneurial endeavors for your children?
It's huge. Like it'll make me emotional. I never thought I could, I wasn't the girl whew, that got the lead roles in high school, but then I got into Juilliard. And then I got out of Juilliard and I worked right away. But then I didn't work all the time. And then, I found training and loved it. And then got really blessed with Mirror. And then, so there's always been these like moments where as soon as I wanted to truly question myself, there was this huge gift of validation. Not that I sought it, but I look at those gifts like my home, like, Juilliard, like, these things that are fancy enough for you to be like, oh, this matters in the world, to say that I'm on the right path. So like when I founded Birth Queen, Mirror was a wonderful platform because I had so many students around the country and abroad who watched me and what I was doing outside of training. And two of my students were like, hey, do you need a fiscal sponsor? Hey, do you want to be a member of Concordia? And so that opened up my entire network on a global level for me to be able to activate in the ways that I am. I was talking to a midwife one time. I was like, so sorry I was late. I was on the phone with a VC. And she looked at me like, girl, who are you? She's like, who's friends with VCs? And I'm like, I don't know, me, because like we need everybody. Like we can't just be birth workers trying to solve for this crisis. Like it has to be everybody's bought into the change. And so I'm rambling, but there's so many. I if I have to say one thing, every day I wake up, no matter how challenging life is, and I choose gratitude, right? Even just my kids' school being across the street is something that I never let overlook. Do you know what I'm saying? Because people have to
Girl, no commute.
no commute.
You could, I'm so sorry. Whatever that perhaps is the biggest flex that a mompreneur can have. Like, I don't care what kind of car you drive. I don't care how many bathrooms you have. I don't care what your net worth is. Girl, you got a school your kids go to across the street.
And it's fantastic. Like the community, like those are the things. Like my son's our neighbor is in the same grade as my son, they like run across the street and play with each other. I'm like, it's like a movie. Those are the things. And I think there was somebody that quoted this, and I think it was Gabor Mate, that doctor or psychologist, Mate. I think that's his name. I don't know if I'm inverting the names in the order, but he said, we look for those big moments. So your question was like, what are those kind of bigger moments, which are great. But he said, it's honestly all those little moments where life is happening. And I think as an entrepreneur and a mom, if you wait for the big moments, you're not going to last to the next one. You know what I mean? Like, it's too hard. You got to enjoy, the blowout and the spit up on your back while you're giving your presentation, and find the beauty in all the chaos. And so to me, like if I have to hashtag, it's beautiful chaos. It's choosing joy daily. It's finding gratitude in the most small of things, because so many people don't have that. And as a mom, I try so hard to give that to my boys. And sometimes the Oakland come out. I be like, what you mean? You need a new jersey. You know what's happening in Gaza? He's like, dang, mom, that's so much. My friend's like, girl, it's a little much. I'm like, well, I'm from Oakland and I live in Harlem. So, they gonna get the real sometimes. I think a parent on the majority of the time. And then sometimes, they need a little Oakland. They'll be fine.
Well, they also get to see the real you and also real life. And it's funny because one of my favorite aspects of mentoring and business and this podcast is keeping people from falling in traps that I did. Like we all have fallen into so many traps and mistakes, and avoiding them can streamline progress so much. as you've built your businesses, what is a fail that you learned from that you tend to warn people, don't do like I did?
Don't listen to other people. And those people might be your partner, your mama, your daddy, your god daddy. Set boundaries. I do that, but I took too long to do that. And someone told me too, you don't need that person. I always thought, I think I needed someone else, or I was shunning, if I'm answering honestly, I was shunning the light. So even with my nonprofit, to me right now, it's not fully the nonprofit. It's Rachel, Birth Queen, the LLC, that is needing to go first, and then the 501c3 can thrive. But for me, often I got attention I didn't like. So I found a way to propel other people up and out and kind of hide. And so I'm learning, number one, I can't let fears of other people stop me, even though they wrap it in a, I'm just telling you that because I love you and I'm trying to protect you. I'm like, really, you're afraid or you're jealous because you didn't have the courage to do it. I hate saying jealous, but people are. Um, I don't mean to walk around like calling everybody jealous of you. That's not why I'm saying that. But sometimes you got to call it what it is. And even acknowledging that you might be surrounded with people that are insecure and not really lifting you hurts, because they're usually the people you thought should and could, but maybe they can't. And so I encourage you to really look at who's really pouring into you positively and uplifting you and pushing you along on your journey. And sometimes it's a random person you met at a conference that you just need in your life at that moment in your journey. And that's a really beautiful thing. But yeah, I would just say lean in and on you. I think J. Cole was like, don't listen to nobody. And it, again, and sometimes you can hear that and it sound negative. But I think those, when God brings you something, you heard that voice. Everybody didn't hear your vision and that voice. So stay committed to that, and be okay that it might be a slow burn. Um, because the foundation will be strong. Like I was weird with Birth Queen. I'm like, the money's not the first thing I'm focusing on. It's relationships. And I think that will be what sustains, because I also love collaboration, and what I'm known for in like the maternal health space and beyond is just that, building bridges and putting people together versus and trying to end this siloed approach to anything, girl, honestly, because it's just not as fun as if you have the support of others on your journey.
I love that. And for so many, this podcast is a type of support, right? Because if you don't have someone, we often aren't surrounded, like we don't have access sometimes to
No.
VCs
Yeah.
or to some of my mompreneurs, their mamas were business owners. Some of my mompreneurs, they went to Harvard Business School. You know what I mean? Some of them were born into a family business that they just made bigger. And then some just happened to get really good advice. So from the perspective of someone who understands what it's like to fall prey to advice that's not necessarily the best, do you have advice for people listening to somehow, in the chaos of motherhood, in the chaos of life, to figure out a way to use their unique and specific gifts to build their brands and their businesses?
Stay authentically you. I have a love-hate relationship with social media. Um, and in the beginning, when I had to use it for fitness to like build my brand, like it makes me throw up when people are like, she's an influencer. And I'm like, well, like, don't worry about whatever everybody else looks like they're doing or how many followers. Like, you don't really know the full story, right? Um, find time to be quiet and to be really clear and leave enough space on your plate to receive blessings. We can be too busy and too full and too fast to even catch what's coming our way to bless us. And the other piece of advice I would say is to be open to pivot. I find that a lot of founders, many people would look at me and find my ability to be so amenable a negative trait. But I find that founders do a lot of harm to themselves when they are so stuck on their plan. So I think it's finding the balance of what is the path. You know, it's first the vision to me, clear vision. Then you got to build how you're going to get there, and then be flexible. Because this world we're living in requires agility.
And you know a little bit about being flexible with your yoga certifications. You flexible internally, you flexible physically.
Yeah. And there's no failure. I think if I had to say one thing, I don't believe in failure. I don't. It's an opportunity to grow. If you fall, you get up. So why'd you fall? Like if you just think about fitness, right? If you're trying something new, like a balance in yoga, and you fall over, then I'm going to say the next time you try to do that, I want you to activate your pelvic floor. Find something to look at that's not moving. Kick more into your hand when you're doing dancers. You know, don't sink into your joints. That's a plan versus, oh, it didn't work. I'm horrible. All this self-deprecation that it's like running rampant. Don't do that. It is a waste of time. I'll finish with this in that regard. My voice and speech teacher, Wendy Waterman, I was stressed about voice and speech at Juilliard. Oh my God, I'm still bad at it. Sorry, parents spent all that money. And she's like, stressing is a waste of time. Do the work. And she looked at me and pointed her finger at me. I still might have some work to do. And she said, Rachel, your problem is that you're not afraid to fail. You're afraid to succeed.
That's very deep and powerful.
Mm-hmm.
It's not afraid to fail, but afraid to succeed. And that's complicated. I can't let you leave without asking you my favorite segment, which is called Mompreneurs Manifestation, where I ask our guests what's next for you or what you're hoping comes next and how we can help to manifest success in this endeavor for you.
I'm working with 2 hospitals in New York, pretty big ones, on building doula programs. So like a doula on demand program in the hospital to make sure that every single Black mom that walks into the hospital is supported by doula. And I would be like running that. And so I'm like really proud of that. I even maybe like faculty at a medical school, like teaching, like how my superpower as a doula is teaching women how to push their babies out and rehabilitate their pelvic floor postpartum. So yeah, to be in a hospital setting, which is something I said I would never do. I was like, I'm not dealing with the hospitals when I started this journey. And so I think that'll be my next big, like, holy mackerels, I'm in the system, but I'm changing it from within, not from the outside. So I'm excited about it.
That's amazing. And is that from your networking? Is that from your friend who was like, I got these grants and you're worthy?
A DM. So it was somebody put on my radar and it took time, right? So I knew the head of obstetrics somewhere. Then he was on vacation looking cute with his man. And I was like, you know what? I've been sitting here watching you, but I think it's the time we need to talk. He's like, let's do it. And then, got to his higher ups. And then my friend kind of got pulled into the combo. And so that started. And then the other, I was just taught my Rumble class. And this woman was like, I'm an IBCLC and my friend is the head of residency and an OB at this hospital. And I was like, I want to all meet. So we met. Then she's like, we're pulling in the chairman. And he's like, what do you want to do? Let's get it done.
And you had a plan. You were not afraid of success.
No, and I just asked. I'm like, this is what we need to be doing. This is where we need help. And and they're like, okay, because they don't know. Like it's not their thing and it's never been done. And so both of them are very excited. And so what, we're gonna probably use grant funding just so we don't have so much pressure from like hospital money to make it do what it do. Once this all comes to fruition, I'll have some pressure, but I'm ready. And to know that I have a hand in educating practitioners, right? Doctors, nurses, and but also making sure that there's education and support for Black mothers to not only survive but thrive from within is something like it's just, it doesn't get better. So
It does not. It's so important. And hearing you talk about pelvic floor from the get before the floor falls crash into the
got you,
ground
girl. We can't have no falling floors,
well,
honey. No.
I laugh because I got so lucky. I had my firstborn in Carchi, Santa Monica, and I'm very intimate with the vulva and the vagina and all body parts, as we can see from my book, The Real Body Manual, which is a photographic guide to the human body. And I remember going into the prenatal class, and I had a very older woman. Like, it was not the mom. It was like, she was old. She's like, I have had 10 children, and I can still hold my pee. And, and I was like, what is this person talking about? She's like, let me inform you what shall happen. Inside of you, your cervix is the size of the opening of a ketchup bottle. And it will actually expand to the size of a mayonnaise jar. But we must do this properly. And I literally looked at RuPaul, my husband, I was like, I'm gonna faint. I'm gonna faint right now. Oh no, I have heard it all. I've seen it all. And I don't know if I can handle this. He was like, hang in there. She's got good stuff for you. Like, but not everyone gets that. Because most people don't know what's going on. I at least went and she was just like, you gotta just be comfortable with the poop. Be comfortable with the pooping. Just like let it go, or do not hold back on anything, because whatever you're holding back could be holding back the baby.
No, which is, but I mean, when we talk about the Black maternal health crisis, pretty much every Black mom I know stalls at 4 centimeters because somewhere in us we're scared, and so when
don't want to poop.
Well, yes, there's that. But
I know. But it's very scary to let go. You're trying to not look like a crazy person in the hospital because you know we're treated. I have stories on that. But in order to birth freely, I would presume, from my 2 experiences and life in these streets, you must relinquish trust and control to the process. And that's hard if you're in a room with a bunch of people who don't look like you, you see the news, these streets are rough. This whole process has not been fun in the first place, but that's where you come in. You're trying to change the whole game.
Yeah. And unfortunately, a lot of these providers were like, remember, like they're human. Like, can we just make them feel safe? And the craziest thing, and I'll keep this short because I can talk about this forever, but your cervix doesn't open unless you generate oxytocin. So like a dog won't give birth in the middle of Fifth Avenue. They're not safe, right? And so we know as Black women and women, let's not get it twisted because America has the worst maternal outcomes of any developed nation. And worse than that. But so it's not just Black women that are dying. We have to feel safe for our cervix to open, which is why so many interventions and synthetic oxytocin, pitocin enters the space. And so then it's just a domino effect of interventions. And so it is very simple things like looking at a woman when you walk into her room instead of your clipboard in the machine so that she feels at the center, hence birth queen, of her experience. She is a birth queen seated on the throne of her body and her experience. And last time I checked, no baby comes without the mom. So not really interested in your clipboard or the monitor. Like you can do that, but first let's give respect to the woman of the hour or 35 or whatever, however long it takes her, So yes, but we could do a whole segment on the pelvic floor if you want.
Oh my God, the whole segment on the pelvic floor. I love it. I love it so much. But also the praise to the key of having providers that look like you. My second birth was not the best for a variety of reasons. New York is not for the weak. I tell everyone, if you look, that's all. We'll have that offline, shall we?
Okay.
But it was a hospital that I was not an anonymous person at the hospital. It was a positive experience. Everyone loved and still this was chaos. The only reason I was okay is I had a black OBGYN. And to the point she loved me so much. She came in on her day off because she ain't trusted. She she was like, this didn't feel right. So I showed up and I was like, bless you. And I felt seen, I felt humanized. And baby Nance just shut on out after she showed up. Like, and
but that's for real. Like, your body felt safe and you had your baby.
Oh my God, yeah. Before I just knew this wasn't a good situation. These are all stories we can have elsewhere because if you survive them, okay, they become hilarious and part of canon and part of your advocacy. But if you don't survive them, then they become part of your trauma, right? So like I'm over here being flippant about the chaos that ensued before my black OBGYN showed up. But what if my black OBGYN had not showed up?
But the problem is you still needed her to show up to feel safe. So I would argue that you're still living with that trauma. Like, it doesn't go away. I held space for Birth Queen. I did a dinner for Black actresses in LA last year and created space for us to share our birth stories. And what was common is that we're like, oh, well, I survived, or I'm successful, so it's not that bad, And I'm like, no, sis, just because you got a couple coins in the bank and you and your baby are alive doesn't mean you don't or shouldn't take time to process your trauma. And I think a lot of us that are successful Black women are like, oh, well, it's okay because everybody else, the other people have it worse. But our journeys are still important and should be valued. You know what I mean? Just the same. I get why we do that. But we still are then walking around with that load, and it weathers us,
Oh, I fully agree. It's actually why I wrote a photographic pregnancy book called Pregnancy OMG, because I think part of it was we just don't see a lot of people of color in this space. Like, we don't even know what to expect, what our labia looks like, what our nipples look like, what our stretch marks look like, what our hemorrhoids look like, quite frankly. But so actually what I think was great about what you're doing is yes, that's terrible. It was not fun and games until my OBGYN walked in. But you know what? That's what you're trying to fill that void. So by ensuring there's a 1-to-1, that person doesn't have to stop at 4 centimeters. So yes, that is a whole other podcast. This is incredible. I am grateful for you. I appreciate you joining me on Mompreneurs. Rachel Nix, you had to tell us where everyone can find you and learn more about the work that you do.
So there's this thing called social media. So it's at Rachel E. Nix, Nicks, or at birthqueen.org. And then I have my own site, rachelnix.com, and birthqueen.org. So, and if you need,
and what can people find? What can people find on your website? Because there's lots to be found.
If you need to train, there's some online classes that are pre-recorded. If you need training one-on-one, we can do that. If you need doula services, I'm a doula. As far as like Birth Queen right now, we're more so in the advocacy space, but we're also open to partner. And if you just have questions in general, as a birth worker, as a mother, as a community, health worker, as a nonprofit founder yourself, like, I'm happy to talk to you. I have some of the answers. I don't have all of them. But sometimes you just need somebody to talk to while you fight the good fight. And then I guess I have 2 movies coming out this year, which is so crazy. So Albany Road, we are looking for distribution. So, hi Netflix, how you doing? Amazon, whatever. But it's in a couple film festivals. I'll be at Essence Festival this summer. It's an African American Film Festival, and August 10th in Martha's Vineyard. And then Elevation is a new post-apocalyptic thriller with Anthony Mackie, and I'm playing his wife, directed by George Nolfi. But we're going to shoot one more scene this summer, and then it'll be done.
Oh my goodness, that's amazing. Well, congratulations. And you heard Rachel, everyone. Thank you for being here with us.
Thanks for having me.
And thanks everyone for listening to Mompreneurs. And just as a reminder, a brand new episode goes live each Monday on Urban One Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Visit urban1podcast.com to learn more. That's urban1podcast.com. Mompreneurs is brought to you by the Urban One Podcast Network and MadameNoire. Created, produced, and hosted by me, Nancy Wren. Executive produced by Sarita Wesley, Allison McGovna, and Tanya Hoffler-Moore. Produced and edited by Jiminique Miller.